electric wiring all along that down in the kitchen, all cannabis plants and what have you in the kitchen.
We don't know where the next one's going to pop up.
Every single street there are buildings boarded up because they were cannabis farms.
Because this is a very lucrative illicit market.
Eastwood in central Rotherham is one of the town's most deprived communities. The day-to-day hardship faced by residents here is being compounded of late by the scourge of organised criminal gangs who've set up dozens of illegal cannabis farms. In street after street, the telltale signs, boarded up doors and windows on the many properties police have already raided.
It's just got out of hand, really. Police are doing everything they can.
Susan Herring has lived in this street for 50 years and, like so many of her neighbours, has had to deal with the consequences of a cannabis farm next door.
It was horrible, you know, you were sat there and it was so weird all the time. And you didn't know whether there was somebody in or somebody not in, and because you never heard them speaking. It'd just be like movements.
Increasingly, the experiences of Eastwood residents are being replicated right across the country. Here in Northampton, police uncovered one of the biggest cannabis farms discovered in years, hidden inside a disused nightclub.
As you can see behind me, the road has been dug up. When we force entry into buildings, into cannabis factories, what we find normally is that the power has been bypassed. On this occasion, in the basement, we've noticed that obviously it's been bypassed on a larger scale than what we would normally find.
The dangers of tapping into high-voltage power supplies are obvious, and their effects are often felt in local neighbourhoods in the form of regular power cuts.
It's just been an absolute nightmare.
Back in Rotherham, Sarah doesn't want us to show her face for fear of reprisals. But like so many here, she's suffered repeated interruptions to her electricity supply.
We've had 33 power cuts since end of August.
33 power cuts?
33 power cuts.
Lasting how long?
About 3 hours maximum. On one day we had 3 power cuts on the same day.
New figures show a huge jump in the number of cannabis plants seized from just over 500,000 in 2020 to more than 800,000 last year, an increase of 64%. That increase in illegally farmed cannabis is seen more widely in street-level drug dealing. Of the 223,000 drug seizures in England and Wales last year, 71% were cannabis seizures. In all, there were more than 168,000 Class B seizures of mainly cannabis last year, up 21% on the previous year.
After 35 years in journalism, well, I'm not shocked by a lot these days, but we've walked around half a dozen streets in this neighbourhood, and every single street there are buildings boarded up because they were cannabis farms. In fact, in this street alone, there are 3 separate buildings now out of use.
Across the country, the trade in cannabis is fueling growing levels of gang violence as criminals fight to control the market for a drug that has a higher profit margin than cocaine.
Well, this is a typical street that we're in now, and indeed this is a typical house that you see boarded up. But
Dr. Alan Billings is South Yorkshire's Police and Crime Commissioner. This property in Eastwood is one of more than 60 cannabis farms raided by his officers in the area in recent weeks.
every one of the potted plants that I see is worth about £1,000 altogether. So even a small terraced house like this might have a dozen or more in each of the rooms, and every room will have plants growing in it. So it's a lot of money that they have.
And it is those vast profits that continue to fuel this illegal trade. For every cannabis farm raided here in Eastwood and elsewhere in the country, others quickly pop up in their place. Mark White, GB News, Rotherham.